forth. I don't know how we arrived at those. I went and looked at our current community comparisons towns. There was a few. Montague, the town of Montague is currently on our current list of community comparison, and they're also on the proposed one from the advisory committee. I looked at the websites of Springham, Orange, and Dudley. I didn't find anything on their website, and I didn't take the time to call their administrator to see if they had one that's not on their website. But Athol has one. And the only cost that they have, and this comes under parks, they have a park bandstand and this and that. For verifiable not-for-profit organization, they charge a $10 per day fee. Air, you don't want to party there. They charge what was it? $50 per field per hour. Wow. And this is under their parks department. They also have a parks facility for dog policy. That mentioned for cost for doing anything. Munson, they have parks and recreation. They show no mention of a fee, except for a rental of like a town hall. It's a single day rental fee of 100 per event, a seasonal for 400. If you require a porta potty at the location, they add 120 a month. Yeah. Then there's under the Board of Selectmen, applications for arts and crafts fair, plant sale, use of the gazebo or others. It's very simple, one-page form, and it has no mention of any money for that. The parks thing, those charges are more for different leagues, for teams and stuff. Townsend, they have a suggested donation fee of $50 would help the department, but it doesn't say mandated. Apparently, they also have a food court up there in the back of the common. The town of Winchington, they have it's a 2-page agreement you can rent the town hall auditorium, the town hall, the park bandstand, the old Murdoch Senior Center, the Winchington Community Park. They list the activity people, blah, 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 town manager's signature. They require certificate of insurance, the building superintendent in the amount of, if there's a fee requirement, you pay a minimum of 4 hours, whatever this may be. They don't list what that dollar amount might be. And it's kind of similar with the proposed community comparisons of what they may charge or not. So my first question is with regarding to fees. What do these fees cover? What do they pay for? I mean, if an event doesn't need police or fire there, what's the town expense? We require them to pick up their trash and do this and that stuff. Then if you have something like the craft fair, you usually have certain people out there, and that's a volunteer organization. I just
Who holds the insurance?
don't know. I believe they people that use the common are required to carry insurance.
Unless it's town sponsored.
Uh,
But even if it's town sponsored, let's say it's a nonprofit organization, then they would have to have the insurance.
So, I mean, I'm trying to get it straight in my head. What is the reason for charging all these? What is the impact to the town with additional fee other than just create revenue? But if you look at the DOR's thing on fees, the intent of charging fees is not just to raise general fund revenue, it's to cover the cost of providing that item. I don't know if there's a police officer required. I mean, we already have in some budgets, police detail funds. And keep in mind that we're probably going to have to re-look at this again, because if the Parks Commission bylaw passes, you look at the vote and policy for the parks and fields and stuff was going to revert to the park commissioners, not us. That's town meeting vote back in November 2021. So, this is work in progress. And as far as the fees, I think they're just
a minute, Mike.
they're kind of high for, to me, they're hard to justify. The impact on the town facilities versus, the cost versus what the fees are. I think looking at a comparison communities outside of air, they're, they say you don't play ball there. That's $50 per hour. I mean, so, and I've just, if we are going to have a fee, I would just like to see it be more uniform across the board, because an Easter egg hunt for a nonprofit and a wedding party that's there for a few hours to take some pictures and stuff, at least consider per event instead of per day. I don't know. Fee structures, my hang up with this, I guess. Plus, looking forward that the Parks Commissioners are going to take over a good part of this. Other than use of town buildings, like if somebody wants to have a meeting here or do something at the senior center or something, then that would fall on us, I believe. But the fields, to include the common, I think, because that's we're going to designate that a park or open space, or, again, when if that Parks Commission passes that special legislation, they come into play, then by town meeting vote, and the bylaw that we put in front of us is going to be, in their laps. So we're going to be visiting this again.
Mr. Curry, you had a comment, sir?
Thank you. Mr.
I did, and it's to Jeff's point. I know that he talked about a couple of direct costs where you would have you're shutting off shutting down the road or things like that. But I think that some of these fee structures also can cover some of the indirect costs. I know that buildings and grounds is charged with mowing lawns and otherwise, but when we have increased use, and most of the time that these permits are asked for, they're during times when we're taking care of grounds a little bit more than we would be in fall or winter when snow's covering everything. So I would ask that everybody just kind of take a moment to consider some of the indirect costs that go into that, because those are harder to identify. And I totally get what you're saying, Jeff, in terms of, are these fees are we trying to make money on this, or are we trying to cover some of the expenses that we have? And I think that there are just some unseen things that we wind up having additional money for. And in the future, if it's Parks and Recreation's money, so be it. But it is going towards something that is supporting the overall effort. That's all I have.
You raised a good point. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Vice Chair, I don't know, this is just off the top of my head or bounce it off. He was talking about indirect costs. Could we direct the fees that we collect to something? like 2 rack or 2, you know, for upkeep or whatever, or to, you know what I'm saying?
Military service members to board at this
That-
time. We
You
just
could,
need
but it would be difficult.
Okay,
Yeah,
It's
you
better to,
get in,
it's better to just coming in as general receipts.
okay.
yeah, it becomes a, that would be a transfer of funds on the town meeting floor, because anything coming in would go to the general fund, and we don't have the authority to make such a recommendation.
Okay.
Unless you create a revolving fund
Unless you create a revolving fund.
for the Parks Commission, Recreation,
We just want to.
when they already have
Yes.
fees there.
Do we know how much,
That's a lot of work.
is there any idea, Holly, like an estimate of what we took in last year and the year before, or can we
For
cannot,
what?
for these fees? Did we ever charge these
We
fees?
never
before?
charged fees.
No, we've never,
We created this because we needed to start charging fees, correct? This is
It
where
takes
it
a lot of
evolved.
staff time to do these. And if
This
you
is
have,
where it
if you're doing it
evolved.
for free, you're gonna have people having events every week. Creating more staff time, I just think about that.
So that's an indirect cost.
Correct.
Because you have to process the permits in your, everything in your office.
So I can say that I agree with Jeff as far as looking at some of like the per day, maybe per event, maybe consider that as a whole instead of per day. Because this can get high if someone's there for 3 days.
Well, we spoke to
Sure.
Shouldn't they be paying for the time they're using? Crafts Festival, they're there 2 days. How much are they raising? Can't pay for that.
They are raising. I get it.
So we spoke to
The
this.
per
and-
day, I'm a little bit funny with.
And we spoke to this, and it was one of the reasons I recall we deferred this. Mr. Bennett was not here at the meeting,
Right,
but case in point, the Lions Club with the
Deferred.
Christmas tree sales. And that goes on for a number of days,
Right,
and
that
even at
goes on for a
$25 a day, that becomes a significant charge.
right. I'm a little worried on where the money came from, like this was like. I got a little confused coming into this particular discussion because I thought we were creating this and changing it. That's why it's on for our agenda tonight, correct? For us to make that call on that, so I was a little.
So if the board wanted to
I'm like,
update
I
it,
understand the wording and the assistance with it, and I appreciate that. But yeah, where price, I don't know.
Hang on just a moment. TCTV, are we still live streaming? Because the video has paused. I wanted to go to the next video.
The connection for YouTube dropped at one point, but the stream restarted. So there
Okay.
is a second video on our YouTube channel that is still streaming the meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. Wanted to make sure we weren't getting caught on a technical glitch. That's why I have it up and running here in the background quietly.
Yeah.
Mr. Lamontagne, go ahead, sir.
so if the board wanted to, they could update it per day to per event. We can make those changes.
I think that makes a little more sense and may make it a little more palatable to the board.
So we'll change per day within the permit fee schedule to per event. Holly, you got that? Because it goes with the section B where it says for recurring events.
Yeah.
Makes it more flow about the policy document. So with the highlighted changes, Mr. Chair, and the change per day to per event, like Jeff already alluded to, we're going to be back on this too, once the special legislation gets through the general court regardless. So,
Great, this is the foundation document. Once we get that special legislation and we bring that commission up on online.
So, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the changes as presented for the town property use policy.
The motion is- Okay, I have a second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Thank you, team, for that. Hearing no further discussion, we'll bring this to the vote. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, and for the record, that's 3 times that Jeff and Julie have agreed. I'm keeping score.
We appreciate that you're keeping score.
It's all good. Okay, brings us up to the next item, item B. The action regarding the decision on Lions Club's events as town-sponsored events.
So, Mr. Chair, I move to approve considering the Templeton Lions Club events as town-sponsored events and for the town administrator to sign off on these events as per the use of town property policy.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I just have one comment. I will direct this one to Sue. I'm looking at the letter that was presented. At the very bottom, it looks like you got caught by spell check. Templeton is misspelled. There's an I thrown in at the end. It's Temple Shun.
Oh, no.
T-I-O-N. Sorry, I did proofread the package.
You don't want to
before
shun
tonight's
anybody.
meeting. We don't. We can fix it. That's easy.
You don't want to shun anybody.
No, not at all. Okay.
Could we amend that to Templeton Lions Club? Because there are Lions clubs in all different kind of communities.
No?
I did say Temple.
It does say Templeton Lions
Does it?
Club in the
Yes,
suggested motion.
Okay, I'm just looking at the
The
agenda.
agenda doesn't have it.
Ah.
the agenda
Well,
doesn't
it's on-
have it, but we're, yeah,
The motion.
but
It's
my
on the
motion
motion,
had it.
6A, the first one. It's
I
an
stand
either or.
corrected.
It's quite all right.
Bad
though.
hearing.
Good catch, good catch. Any further discussion, team?
No, I corrected Jeff, so I'm good.
One.
One.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, let's bring this to the vote. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths.
Yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes.
Mr. Curry.
I vote yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you for that, team. Item C, I'm going to yield back my time. The RAAC has not met, so I have no information to provide to the board. That brings us up to board member and administrator comments and any reports.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Bennett, go ahead.
I will just comment that there's a list in the town clerk's office, and I'll be checking it twice. Tomorrow is the deadline
Yep.
for taking out nomination papers. There are many open spots. Some that are open from last year, failure to elect. If you're a resident and you question things, or you go to town meeting and you complain, or you complain on Facebook or wherever, whatever issue you may have, that's a reason in my mind to run, to take out papers. You still have time to take out your papers and walk around and get your 32 signatures of town registered voters. It's an opportunity. And yes, I am a volunteer. The Board of Selectmen are volunteers. A few may collect a couple extra bucks for it, but nonetheless, we are volunteers, like all the other boards and committees. So that's your chance. If you don't like how things go on many different fronts, there are a lot of open seats, including 2 on the Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Cemetery. Just go to the town clerk's office, pull your papers, go get your signatures, and sit at the table and join the fun. If you complain, now's your chance. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
parents with young adults or older adults living at home, or, mention it to them. We need the younger generation's perspective. Be nice to see more people step up that are in their 20s and 30s.
Absolutely. Ms. Richards? Mr. Valente?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Mr. Curry, any comments, sir?
No, I'm good. Thanks for everyone putting up with me in an airport.
Thank you for joining us remotely.
Increase your tech budget.
Safe travels, sir.
And I should have said I did pull papers, so if anything you want to run against me, 2 people and all that, please do.
Thank you for that. I have no comments to add tonight as well. Okay, that brings us up to action item 8, adjournment.
I motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths.
Yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
I vote yes.
I vote yes as well.
Safe travels, Mike.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.